It's so exciting to have you here. I know it's a big issue, so if again, my co-founder said it, if you're comfortable sharing, go ahead and share with us. It would be nice to hear your story. Okay. Okay. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start with our little presentation. So we are New Beginnings. We are a nonprofit that we started back in 2016. We're two best friends that back in our sophomore year of high school just recognized the global issue of the refugee crisis and discovered that millions of people are displaced around the world and need help to start a new beginning in a foreign country. And that essentially is where our name for our nonprofit was born. New Beginnings, because we hope to provide love, hope, and a new beginning to refugees in need around the world. With events like these, we want to be able to bring awareness to the issue and hopefully start a conversation or even continue the conversation to keep going. This is our first event, and we're so excited, and hopefully many more events to come from here, just to educate and help empower people to speak on their stories and their experiences and help solve this humanitarian crisis.
And for today, we're going to be watching a very, very short documentary by Daphne Matsuraki. She's actually a UC Berkeley student who wanted to capture the story of a local Coast Guard officer stationed off the Greek island of Lesbos, where thousands of refugees have braved the Mediterranean to flee their conflicts at home. You know, just to give a broader picture about it, you know, the waters of this small island were once tranquil, but now the Coast Guard finds itself overwhelmed because they have to save hundreds of people every week from drowning at sea. Docks previously lined with restaurants have now become makeshift first responders centers for these enormous number of people that are arriving, attempting to make the crossing from, you know, their homes to the Mediterranean. And, you know, a statistic is from more than 600,000 from Turkey alone in 2015.
Right, so we're gonna start the documentary now. Just try and stay aware of everything that's going on, anything that captures your attention. Again, there is going to be a discussion at the end, so if you guys are comfortable with talking about things, again, Michelle, your story, you can go ahead and talk about it. We'll talk about it more in the discussion. Just stay aware and mention things that you find interesting that you find.
Verizon knows how to build unlimited right. Start with America's most awarded network. Offer it at a price built for everyone with the most advanced iPhone yet. iPhone 11 Pro on us when you buy one, because everyone deserves the best. This is unlimited built right.
Started a little bit. Okay, there we go.
Μιχάλη, ποιες εξοκοιτές από εδώ προς την Τουρκία? Εμείς μαζέψαμε μια βάρκα και οι άλλες οι δύο βάλαν μπροστά και φύγανε. Ταξιδεύουν. Το 2001 στο νησί μας είχαν έρθει 20 άτομα αφγανικής υπηκότητας και θυμάμαι ότι είχε γίνει η είδηση της χρονιάς. Το 2015 που ζούμε τώρα, τα πράγματα είναι το άκρος αντίθετο. Τα πράγματα ήταν ελεγχόμενα, ήρεμα. Η αναλογία είναι ασύγκριτη. 10 άτομα κάθε ώρα που περνάει. Καλούμαστε να φέρουμε εις πέρας μια εισρωή ανθρώπων της τάξης 200 άτομα την ώρα. Η βάρκα πού είναι?
Δεν ξέρω, βαρκά έναν άνθρωπο που λέει πάνω σε ένα ξύλο. Έτσι τον είπαν στο σταθμό.
Καλώς, θα πάμε εμείς.
Έφυγες. Έλα, φύγε, Κυριάκο.
Θα περάσουμε
Είναι οκ όλα.
και λίγο δεξιά σου θα δεις την άλλη βάρκα.
Ναι, θα δεις την άλλη.
Σχοινιά ετοιμάσει και γάντια, φέρνουν γάντια.
Άντε ακόμα, δεν κοιτάξεις πέρα τώρα σε τελειώνουμε. Τι περιμένεις να σου φέρω δίπλα. Εδώ. Κάτσε, κράτη. Φύγε μπροστά. Go! This side. This side. περάσουν. Να έχουν καθαρό το σκηνή, είπα.
Μην το έχουν το χέρι. Όπου 2 ώρα έχει, Χριστέ μου.
Έχουμε 2 παιδιά εδώ, ένα ζητάνε να είναι ένα στενοφόρο εκεί πέρα, στην προβλήτα μόλις στούμε.
Σε 5 λεπτά. 15.
Είναι ανέστα, βγάζουν νερό.
Κουβερτάει τώρα, συλληπτάει.
Το στενοφόρο πάρτε να έρθει τώρα.
Εντάξει, έχει ήχους, η bridge, οκ.
Ερακλή, πάρ' τηλέφωνο να δω που είναι το στενοφόρο. Να μιλήσουμε με το στενοφόρο.
Βασίλη.
Όχι, γιατί κάποια χρήματα δεν τα παίρνουν όλα. Σου λέει όταν θα φτάσουμε θα στα δώσουν οι συγγενείς μας τα υπόλοιπα. Οπότε χθες το πρωί στην παραλία ήρθε το μεγάλο σκάφος του λιμενικού και έβγαλε πόσα άτομα, μεταξύ των οποίων 8 παιδιά. Και η αδερφή μου από το διπλανό, από το σπανέλι, ήρθε και ζητούσε κουβέρτες γιατί τα μωρά στάζανε με νερό.
Ναι, απέναντι σημείο όμως και μετά όταν βλέπεις ότι γίνονται 3-4 χιλιάδες κόσμους μέρα.
Δεν μπορεί, μα δεν υπάρχει δύναμη στο νησί επάνω για να μπορέσει. Το παιδιατρικό είναι γεμάτο και αγνοούνται οι γονείς ή οι περισσότεροι έχουν πεθάνει και δεν υπάρχει άνθρωπος να τα φροντίσει.
Δηλαδή ρίξαν το παλιάκι τελικά σε ποιον? Σε μένα και σε σένα,
Ναι,
να βρω τα ρούχα, να περιθάλψω όλους αυτούς τους κακομοίριδες.
Κατά κάποιο λόγο πανικοβάλλομαι κι εγώ, φοβάμαι, δεν μπορώ να τους καθησυχάσω απόλυτα, είναι αδύνατο. Στα μάτια τους βλέπω ότι ακόμα υπάρχουν εικόνες από τον πόλεμο τον οποίο ζουν. Έρχονται από τον πόλεμο, γλιτώνουν από τις βόμβες που πέφτουν στα σπίτια τους και βλέπουμε οικογένειες να χάνουν τους ανθρώπους τους μέσα στα ελληνικά ύδατα. Τα ελληνικά ύδατα, λόγω της θάλασσας που διασχίζουν. Ο Κυριάκος είμαι. Ετοιμάστε το σκάφος, βγαίνουμε άμεσα. Γρήγορα, εντάξει. Ετοιμάστε το για απόπλο. Γράψε ένα στίγμα. Σβήσε! Πέντε το σημείο. Δύο σημεία. Κλείσε. Δώσε το Βασίλη.
Ποιον έξοδο για να το βοηθήσεις να πάρει. Πού είναι το αυτοκίνητο, θα δηλώνουμε.
Πάμε να φύγουμε εμείς.
Στη Φιλιππίνα που είναι κλιματής είναι η πίστη.
Δεν υπάρχουν λόγια. Αν δεν το νιώσεις αυτό, δεν υπάρχει. Συνελέγησαν ανέστητα και κέρδισαν τις αισθήσεις τους μετά από πρώτες βοήθειες πληρώματος σκάφους μας. 16 και 50 κατάπλος, παράδοση. 17.00 απόπλο. 17 και 30 στο σημείο ναυαγίου, περισυλλογή 4 ατόμων σε μία σωρό. Συνοδεύτηκα κοντά στο λιμάνι της Μητυλίνης. Εντάξει, κομπλέ. Τέλος και το μερολόγιο. Φιάλτες. Η αγωνία να... Όπου πηγαίναμε βρίσκαμε ανθρώπους στη θάλασσα. Και εύχομαι να μην υπάρχει κανένας αγνώμενος.
All right. So that is a little bit emotional. Let me see if I can. Okay.
Yeah, so thank you for watching that with us. And you know, if it was on, as I could see on my end, it is like a very choppy documentary. You know, when the filmmaker filmed it, she was just a student, and you know, her equipment from like a GoPro to like a digital camera, and in those conditions where everyone, you know, was just trying to help. It's just super amazing that she was able to put that together. But keeping that in mind, that was 5 years ago, so that was released in 2015. And there has been updates since then. You know, even though there's been a major drop in arrivals, so it's not up to like the 500,000 anymore. In 2018, 2,275 refugees still died or went missing when they were crossing the Mediterranean. And last year, over 1,000 refugees died in the Mediterranean Sea trying to reach Europe in 2019. This is the 6th year in a row that the bleak milestone has been reached, meaning that over 1,000 refugees have been declared dead. And just keeping in mind, this is from the UNHCR, and they do not count bodies that have been missing. And there's no way to really count if people are missing because, as we've learned in the documentary, they're being smuggled. And, the smugglers don't just give, the Coast Guards any of these information, and there's no way to contact them. So we don't even know how many people are realistically missing. And another statistic is that 2 children have died every day on average since September 2015, trying to cross the Eastern Mediterranean to find safety. Just touching upon what we saw in the documentary, and how it works is like if you can't afford like a life vest, which you will have to buy from the smugglers, like, you don't get one. So it's just very likely that drownings occur. And just to touch upon what the government is doing, this is from an article from this year. Louise Amsberg, a member of the German parliament, wrote that neither Germany nor the European member states live up to their sea rescue responsibilities 4 years after Alan Kurdi's death. And I'm not sure if this name strikes out to you. I did not want to include the image, but, just describing it, he was the 3-year-old Syrian boy whose picture went viral after he washed up the shores when he died from drowning. And, his picture went viral all over social media. But, 4 years later, the situation has only gotten worse ever since. And there's been, no concrete actions to really stop this from happening.
Yeah, so again, like, this is a serious issue, and as you can tell, like, these Coast Guard police are having trouble trying to manage all of this. They pretty much take a boat out to sea like multiple times a day to rescue people. Even in choppy, windy conditions, these smugglers just kind of put them out there at their own risk to like get those 4 miles of water and get to there safely without warning them of what's to come and all of that. And the government isn't doing anything. It's all on these local villagers and people who live there to help save these children, these people that are coming over there. It's just a really messy situation. So we have a few questions to discuss. So there are a lot of scenes like the one that was shown in the documentary where death is shown. You guys saw the man being carried in a body bag because he had died. It's very graphic. So how is the availability of graphic images prevalent through social media and accessibility of personal filming devices? How is that kind of like a positive in telling the story? Or is it, if it's possible, is there even a negative to it? You guys can go ahead and discuss if you guys would like to put it in the chat, if you want to like talk about it out loud. Just give you a few minutes.
I think like sharing for me, it was a point that Michelle brought up earlier while we were watching about saying that like it's good for people to see this even if it's graphic because it's like the real thing that's happening.
And Michelle, you just added some more to it. You said, I definitely think it's positive to the extent that the truth of what's happening needs to be told. But you're right, there is this kind of thing that's going around on social media, and it's called trauma porn. We can see that in situations like this. We can even see that in situations like the BLM movement right now. All these images, these graphic images of people dying, people burning, people, like just really bad situations going viral, just for it to go viral and then die down later on. It does kind of create kind of like a conversation in the time being, but after that, it doesn't do anything much further than that. And that's why we, as an organization, we hope to keep, again, like we said at the beginning of this screening, we want to keep this conversation going. We want to bring action. We want to help solve this humanitarian crisis. Yes, the face of the deceased was not shown in the film. That is pretty respectful. Again, with that image of the Syrian boy, like it was the whole entire graphic image just shown, and that is kind of like a privacy situation. I mean, I don't know if that was right for that photographer to release that photo, but it did kind of start a conversation. So yeah, we could kind of say there is like a positive and negative, and I mean, I guess this is how life is. People do become desensitized and stop speaking about it after a while. So our next question, you guys can keep adding to the chat if you want to answer the question later on, but our next question is, in what ways does the film reflect fundamental values of rights and justice, or not? So Michelle, you did kind of say like the rights, like, I mean, they don't show the faces of the deceased, and I guess that is kind of a pretty fundamental value. But there is no justice going on. And if you guys want to talk about maybe experiences, what you guys see in the news, how you guys think this film reflects what is happening in these situations. So another thing we can add to that question is there is that kind of call for justice. There is that kind of call for action from the Greece government, from the European Union. There is this situation going on where they are accepting these millions of refugees into their countries, but they don't do anything past that. They don't provide infrastructure, they don't provide supplies, they don't provide help, they don't provide, of course, there's that language barrier that refugees have, and it's kind of them just starting from scratch on their own without any help from anybody else. And these refugee camps, of course, are very poorly managed, very bad conditions, dirty, disease-ridden. So I guess there is that, this film does reflect kind of that point of view from these villagers of this town. Yeah. The right to life, the most basic human right, is being supported by the Coast Guard. It is being exploited. Correct, yeah. So Michelle did bring up a good point, like it is being exploited by these smugglers who are kind of taking all this money from these refugees who have no other way of being able to come here or come to Europe. And then there is kind of like that support of Coast Guard and local people, but no support from any governments on either side, either from the war-ridden ones or from the European countries. You're right.
No, and like just adding on to that, I think the documentary really shows that beautifully where, you know, in the later scenes, they were showing like right outside the restaurant where like they're trying to, you know, get all the water out of the baby, and, you know, trying to give CPR. And it was a little bit choppy, but like those people that were helping were like tourists and like villagers. They weren't like EMTs. They weren't, you know, anyone professional. And I think during that scene, like someone yelled out like, the world needs to know what's happening here. And it's just crazy that it has to be like these non-experienced people. Like it's not doctors, it's not, you know, policemen. It has to be like just passing bypassers who has to help out.
Yeah, so you also bring up a good point, Michelle, about the injustice of racism. You're right, if these refugees were white, there probably is no way that the government would ignore this. I guess in a way, they see these people as dispensable because they don't really see what's going on with their eyes. These town people are seeing it with their eyes, and they see that there's a problem, there's an issue that's affecting their community and affecting their country and affecting these people whose lives matter, you know. But these governments don't see that, and so they just see them as dispensable bodies, dispensable people, and it is pretty sad. It's pretty disgusting, actually. Chris, do you have anything to say, or Rajan, you want to say anything? Ehab, you guys can go ahead and add if you'd like. You guys have anything to say? Of course, I don't want to call you out, but if you want to add to the conversation, we'd love to hear your opinions and your thoughts. You guys can always jump in. All right, so one of our next questions. So at one point in the film, someone asks why the refugees took the risk of crossing the sea in windy conditions. What is your reaction to this question? Like, how would you respond? I know the people in the documentary responded by saying these smugglers are evil people. They said that no one knows about this situation, that it's disgusting, that the government needs to do something. So we're curious, what would you have responded to this person asking this question?
Okay, hi, this is Michelle. Sorry, I'm sorry, I have so much to say, but
No.
like, I can't type this all out. This is like, I got like so viscerally mad by just reading that question. I cannot even. But I mean, I think one thing that struck me as we were watching this was understanding that this snippet of these refugees' lives, this is actually like the middle of their story, if you think about it. Nobody's thinking about what happened to them in their lives to actually lead to this happening, right? This moment. Then something that I followed more over the past few years is like what they're going to have to go through. It's not like they're like going to settle down in Lesbos, you know, and have a happy Greek life, like sipping wine. They have to now start their overland European trek to like Germany or wherever, right? Going through like horrifying, like I don't even know how they do it, but to go through like Hungary and Serbia where they're like literally like trying to like kill them along the way and stop them. So I think it's really important that we remember this is the beginning, this is the middle of the story. So just to be like, oh my God, why are they crossing in a storm in this moment at this time? It's such an ignorant, just tiny little snippet. And it just shows how people only often think about the stuff that affects them. It's a very like selfish, like self-centered way of looking at this. So
I love that. I love everything you just said. You're right. This is the middle of their passage. I mean, again, these ones that we saw these refugees that we saw in this documentary specifically, they're coming from Turkey. Of course, that is not their country. So they would have had to come from Syria, Afghanistan, all these war-torn countries, migrated to Turkey, and then from Turkey, they're making this treacherous journey over to Greece. So again, yeah, you're right. This is the middle of their journey, but and it is kind of disgusting to hear this this Greek villager town person kind of say like, oh, like why would they do this, you know? Because she is of course just thinking about her country, she's just thinking about her town, kind of thinking about like, oh, this person just came here like right now, like why would they do this?
Yeah, and it's not wrong to like be like, oh, those smugglers are totally exploiting it. They're just a cog in the wheel of the whole story of the injustice.
Definitely.
And it's again like they're just focusing on, oh, how they got on the boat that now has capsized and now they're our problem, right? So let's just focus on the smugglers. Never mind like actually learning something about where they're from. Yeah, and Turkey is like literally, isn't it still the #1 country in the world that hosts the most refugees ever? And I think Jordan and Turkey, like, I mean, if we for 1 second put ourselves in the shoes of these parents and just, you know, what they're like to even already have survived what they've survived in their home country, in the trek to Turkey, in the trek across, like that's already so insane. That's the question to ask is like, oh my gosh, how resilient are these people that they've survived to this? And what can we do to honor their resilience instead of seeing them as just like, oh, like people we have to save and then get them out of here, you know?
Exactly. Yes, that is a perfect way of putting it, I think. So you're right. Like this documentary, you could see the faces of these refugees. You could see the again, like the narrator said, or the protagonist, he said, you can see the war in their eyes. And it's true. You could see all this horror that they've been through, and then now they're just going through more horror because they're in this new country. They don't know the language. They don't know Greek. And now they have to go through refugee camps and all these horrible conditions, the hospitals that are overcrowded. And it's difficult to think about it, but it is a conversation that needs to be out there. And I feel like refugees are one of the most demographic that is ignored, not thought about, especially here in America. I don't know if you probably live here in America, but I feel like we're really self-centered in the way that we think about things. We kind of think about ourselves a lot. We don't really think about what's going on in other countries, especially a lot of people with Mexican Refugees, they do see them as illegal aliens, but those are also refugees and they're also seeking asylum, and people from South America, you know, it's just this conversation that is so big, and I could go on about it for hours, but it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had about a lot of things. And I think here in the United States, we are definitely more equipped to help people like this, and we should definitely try and do something. And I'm so glad you guys are here to have this conversation with us. So our next question is, what moments in this film stood out for you and why? So if you guys have any moments that you caught that you just probably won't get out of your head anytime soon, you can go ahead and share that with us. We'd love to hear it.
I think sharing my moment first. I remember when I first watched this and like just really sat down, like no discussion, nothing. Like I remember I was just bawling because even though it was like, this is very, like what Michelle said, it's very impactful because they do show graphic scenes, but you know, it's not too graphic that it's very too much. It just shows the reality of how hard it is and how inexperienced these Coast Guards are. And yeah, just that scene of like that mother just floating with her two children and just like her hanging on, just like, well, forever. I'm still thinking about it like today, and I've seen this film like 3 or 4 times now, like just knowing that like how scared she must have been, and you know, connecting that back with not really a moment but a sentence that he wrote while he was doing like his logs, I guess, like what, as Coast Guards they have to like basically like diary their day, and you know, his sentence of saying, I just hope like we got everyone. And it's just so scary to think that there could be people out there that, you know, aren't saved, because there's literally hundreds, like as Michelle pointed out in the while we were watching the documentary, these boats are not sturdy. And yeah, like you just don't know who could have fell, and like they don't have any chance of like keeping track because there's usually no list involved. So yeah, it's just super powerful, and it's not something that I can get out of my head like anytime.
And of course, that could like be seen with that situation with the 3-year-old Syrian refugee. I mean, they didn't know that he had drowned until he washed up suddenly onto the shores. You know, there's probably millions of people on the bottom of the ocean now, and then they just miraculously kind of float up and they're found, and it's probably a really horrifying thing to see for these people in these villages. You know.
Yeah, for me, what like I can't get out of my head is just that like here they were rescuing everybody, right? And like the sheer just like horror and like just trauma that like even though they were safe on the boat, like they absolutely could not act like they were safe. They were like, it's almost as if they were still in the water. They couldn't even process they were on the boat, right? I mean, of course the children, that was horrifying, but like the adults, they're like, oh my God, because then they realized that that mother and the daughters were in you know, the in the water still, and they're like, oh my God, oh my God. And so, you know, they just couldn't get out of that state, and that was so horrifying. And I can just imagine the secondary trauma to the protagonist and the other people on the boat, like the Coast Guard, like they have to just like be in the midst of that and continue on, you know. And the other thing that surprised me was how, you know, honestly, like he's Coast Guard, but I don't think it's in like he's being forced to do what he does. Like these people in that island that are Coast Guard or whatever, they could very well just be like, you know what, I'm just gonna do my job, and oh, it's 5 o'clock, I don't need to go out again or whatever, you know, like there's nothing saying that they have to do this. So, you know, and it's at extreme mental and emotional peril for them that they're doing this, even physical, really. But he's like, let's go back out there. And then somebody at that lunch table said, well, we just got to help everybody. We got to help them. We got to help everybody, you know? And that was just like so awesome, you know? Cause yeah, you could sit down for like hours and hours and talk about how the government isn't helping, and then the smugglers and the world and everything's so horrible. But at the end of the day, they're like, we're here. We have a boat. We can do something. We're going to do it. And that was just like, wow, that's it. As long as you have that, you have hope, you know?
And it sucks that, I mean, the government isn't doing anything to help these people, because it shouldn't be on the Coast Guard to have to see these horrifying things. It shouldn't be on these like town people to have to go and give CPR to a child, you know, like that's not their job, and it sucks. I think that's like a conversation we need to start bringing up. We need to like kind of bring call to action from these governments and tell them to do something about this situation and help out these refugees. So we have some comments in the chat. So Chris says, the children needing CPR, we don't really know how things turned out for them, and much admiration for the Greek Coast Guard members. So yeah, I think that was a pretty big moment that stood out for me as well, like the children needing CPR. It's a really sad image to see. It's a sad moment to see. One of the child that was put upside down and they were patting her back, trying to get the liquid out of her lungs. It's really, it makes you want to cry. And I remember when me and Shannon watched this the first time, we were both bawling our eyes out because it was just such a strong moment in the film. And I think all of them turned out fine, but of course, water in your lungs and just you swallowing that much amount of water is probably going to have some damage to you for a couple years, especially in the conditions that those hospitals are in and everything. I'm sure they turned out fine. They're alive, but just really difficult. Yes, hypothermia as well is probably a big situation, especially during winter time. This one seems like it's windy, but it looks like maybe it might be around spring or something. So the water is cold, but not as cold as winter time, which could lead to hypothermia in really bad situations, especially for 4 miles. Rajan also said something. For me, it's the different things the smugglers do, like not providing proper boats, seeing all these people just floating in the water. The idea of how long they must have been floating, swimming before they got saved. Exactly. So we did see that scene in the documentary where the lifeboat was completely gone from right under them. It was, I mean, these boats are made out of what, like tubing material, you know? They can't withstand the treacherous waters between Turkey and Greece, especially 4 miles of it. These people do end up like floating or swimming all the way to their destination, and it's a horrifying thing to see. And I can't imagine the Coast Guard members saying this every single day of their lives for multiple times a day, you know? You guys have such good points. I love it. All right, so our next question. Were there any surprises, anything that challenged what you know or thought that you knew? I know this is like an issue that not many talk about. Maybe some of you guys knew about this. Some of you maybe found some new information through this documentary. You guys are free to share your thoughts about that.
I think for me, what like surprised me, because for New Beginnings, we do a lot of work, you know, around the world, but then, you know, the film like really perfectly situates it where they have cutscenes that show the restaurant that's like right next to the docks. And, you know, I would just be thinking like, shouldn't they have like a proper area or something like that? So yeah, it was just shocking to me that it's so close to like an industrial area. And there's just people there that can just watch them, like where people are literally dying and needing help.
Mm-hmm. And you can definitely see that. I mean, there's like houses in the background. Like, I imagine if this was like our houses and you could just see this constantly every day. I mean, the trauma that it puts not only on the refugees, but also these citizens of Greece, you know, it's definitely something traumatizing, and it's not something someone should see every single day of their lives. It's definitely horrible. Does anyone else have any surprises? Did you guys get surprised by anything you saw in the film? I think I was definitely surprised by seeing these refugees' faces and the children. You always kind of hear about these situations, but you never see it in action. And I think this documentary caught everything on camera, and it was authentic, it was real emotions, it was real people, and it puts a face to the situation and to the crisis right now. And I think I was really surprised by just the awful things that they go through. I knew that it was happening, and I know I've watched other documentaries, other films about it, but nothing as real and as raw as this one was. This one was definitely surprising for me. Has anyone heard of Epimonia? It's an org that makes bracelets from thousands and thousands of discarded life vests at the shores of Greece. The money goes toward refugee services. Oh wow, I love that. That's a really, we're gonna check that out. That's really nice. I love that. Thank you for that. That's a good suggestion. I'm gonna check that out. All right, so we're gonna move on to our last question. So do you think it's fair, we kind of touched on this subject a little bit, but do you think it's fair that the Coast Guard crew are the ones who are burdened with this humanitarian crisis? Why or why not? And how do you think the government of Greece should take action? I know there's many, and we kind of deal with this a little bit. We talk about this with our organization. We kind of put out petitions and calls to action to governments. So I guess in a way, like, what do you guys think these governments should do? What do you think should happen?
Okay, sorry, I'm going to pipe in here real quick while other people that are less shy than me think of their responses. Sorry. But this is where I feel like it's very important for us to understand the geopolitical realities going on, because it's super easy for us in America to be like, what the heck? Why don't they just do something or allocate money or whatever, And I mean, if you actually can understand what's been going on in Greece from the last 5, 10, 15 years, it is a giant, sorry, but shit show over there. I mean, their country has been basically bankrupt forever. The EU kind of totally looks down on them. They're like, why can't you guys get your stuff together? I mean, the unemployment rate is unbelievable. So I think that's really important to understand though, because when you already have such a taxed system, and then there's all this corruption, and then I think I couldn't even keep track of it for a while. It was just too much to handle, but with the leadership and all that, and so, but it's just really bad. So I think that's an important thing to first know. Obviously it doesn't mean oh well, whatever, it's a lost cause, but I think it's important if you're gonna bring action to any kind of governmental groups, just kind of be smart about it, right? And be okay, what do they actually care about? What are they who's running the country? If it's not is it I don't know, the corporations, maybe you can get the corporations to sponsor something and make them look good or something. It's all about tactics, right? It's all about motivation, what would get them to do it, because you obviously just being going out of the goodness of their heart, or being just they're asking for money that doesn't really exist in the scope of a governmental program, that's not going to work, right? So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
I think you made so much good points there. Again, this is a situation where you kind of think about it as, well, is this the government of Greece's problem, or is this the whole entire world's problem? And that's what something that the UN kind of looks at a little bit. They do try to help out refugees. They have the UN refugee group that they specifically focus on refugees with. And that's because this is a humanitarian crisis that everyone should be talking about. Everyone should input into, that all the governments in the world should be kind of having a say and kind of dealing with this. Here in the United States, of course, it's difficult to fly over refugees, right? And this is why Europe is such a big destination for these refugees, is because they're able to travel to it by boat, which doesn't cost them much. But of course, if they were to fly over, that's thousands and thousands of dollars if they were to come here to the United States or to Canada, etc. So it is very difficult for them to travel. So they do go to Europe mostly, and it is a situation where I feel other countries where they are not able to come to, we should probably try and help out, especially where there's laws that are being made and things that are being put into place, such as with this Trump administration that we have currently in the United States. He did cap the refugee numbers at 18,000 per year, which is not enough. There is way more refugees trying to seek asylum in this country, which is just absolutely ridiculous. And I know, I heard I think Joe Biden's plan is to raise that number to 150 per year, which is amazing, because 18,000 is absolutely, yes, ridiculously low, Michelle, absolutely. And I think since we did cap it down to 18,000, we should be able to help at least financially. there's all these countries that have all this money kind of allocating it towards things such as war and things like that. It's such a big conversation, of course, but maybe that money should go towards things that are humanitarian, you know? Especially since that money going to war is causing these situations in the first place. So there's that conversation of maybe we should allocate that money towards something better. Maybe we should stop creating these wars in these countries. Maybe we should step in and do something. There's so much things that everyone can do. It's just a conversation that happens at that higher level of government, and it's impossible to tell someone stop funding military, stop funding war, you know? Also touching on how hard it is to be granted asylum in the US, the process is so crazy and it is actually very difficult and expensive to be granted asylum. Exactly, so Shannon just said that. One of the things I focus on with my major is human rights and asylum advocacy and the laws around asylum, and it is very, very difficult to get asylum here. It takes years to get approved. And of course, these people who are fleeing war, especially, also like, not especially, but like also like in South America, all these people who are trying to come up here and find a better life, get a better life up here. It's difficult for them to wait a couple years to be able to be granted asylum. Michelle says, yes, and also addressing this at its source, actually, hold Russia and Syrian leaders accountable for perpetuating war and continuing this refugee war. Absolutely, it's horrible. And I mean, one of the biggest refugee groups is actually Palestinian refugees. And we as the United States actually help fund that happen. We give Israel $3 billion a year, which helps aid killing and terrorizing these Palestinians, and it's absolutely horrible. They account for 6 million refugees in the world right now. Again, this is like a thing, yes, that it's horrible. The illegal new settlements that continue on, again, this is a conversation for us in the United States, and that's what I was mentioning earlier, where a lot of people in the United States kind of live in this bubble where they're like, oh, like that has nothing to do with us. It does. We fund a lot of these wars. We give a lot of this money out. We put a lot of our troops in these countries that cause all of this to happen. Yes, especially with COVID-19, absolutely. And that's something that we're going to talk about in a little bit. These refugees are dealing with a pandemic. You know, it's already horrible for us who have the resources to get medical attention and have money to be able to continue our lives. But these refugees have nothing, have no houses, they have no health systems, no infrastructure, no anything to be able to combat something as big as COVID-19, which is spreading horribly through all these refugee camps. Absolutely disgusting the way it's being dealt with right now. Actually, one of the things that is happening in Moria Refugee Camp in Greece is that they're making face masks for countries around the world, but they're not getting any of that for themselves. So it's kind of just exploiting these refugees for labor for super cheap. It's absolutely disgusting. There's so much to talk about in regards to this, but we're just gonna move on and oh yes, absolutely. So Michelle says she has to go for any future events. Okay, yes, absolutely. We'll message you this ending. We actually have our social media on the next page, and our things on this next page. Okay, but it was so nice to have you, Michelle. You can leave whenever you guys are ready. But so we're having this fundraiser up right now, actually, for Moria Refugee Camp, which is the biggest refugee camp in the entire world, and it's on the Greek island of Lesbos, which is where this documentary was filmed. So this school, you can see the school on the left. It's actually anticipating 300 refugee children from Afghanistan, Palestine, Syria, coming in from Turkey and everything. And we are actually trying to send over school supplies for them. And it would be very helpful if you guys would like to donate. We're 2 college students. It's very difficult for us to be able to fund all our projects. And so we do take a big amount of our help from our community, from events like these, and from you guys. So this is our fundraiser, our PayPal and our Venmo. You guys can check us out help us out a little bit. Our goal is $3,000. We are currently at the halfway mark, and each kit costs us $15 to make and send out. So our next page, this is the last one. Shannon?
Yeah, so just sharing more resources, and this recording is going to be available for those who weren't able to make it to watch. But yeah, we have a really good website with a bunch of resources so that the learning doesn't end here. This is just an example of some of the things that you can find on our website. And we're very active on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, just to learn more about, what we do. And so you could follow us in our current project with sending school supplies to Greece. But we've also done a lot of projects in the past, so you can learn about us in our website, definitely. But overall, thank you so much for spending time with us, a little bit of an hour this evening to just take time to learn about these refugees and have an open conversation about what's going on with them, because this is really the first step to truly making any sort of action happen.
You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you for starting this conversation, and I hope you continue this conversation with everyone you know. Just shout it to the rooftops. We appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Have a nice evening. Bye, everyone.